Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're going to be looking at the top news from February 17, 2025. We're focusing on business and finance and global events. We've got articles from MarketWatch, CNBC and the Motley Fool UK. Get ready to cut through all the noise and find the insights that matter.
It's amazing how interconnected all these stories are. Everything from politics impacting financial markets to, anxieties about the global economy.
Yeah, let's just jump right into it with Trump's return and all the ripple effects. CNBC reports that companies are having to grapple with the implications of his policies, things like potential tariffs and also his support for Dogecoin, which is interesting.
This time around, though, investing.com says that Trump's social media posts aren't having as big of an impact on the market as they did during his previous term. So maybe investors are a little bit warier, or the market's just adjusted to his unpredictability.
Yeah. Makes you wonder, CNBC also highlighted a pretty interesting development here in the U.S. Unemployment is going way up in Washington, D.C. And this is happening as Trump and Elon Musk, who's now involved in the government, are working to shrink the federal workforce.
That's a big move. It makes you think about a potential shift in the U.S.'s global stance. Especially with the Russia-Ukraine peace talks, CNBC reports that European countries are really trying to shape these negotiations, but the U.S. is taking on a more dominant role now, and this is raising concerns about Europe losing its influence on the world stage.
And to add to that, CNBC says that Trump tried to get 50% ownership of Ukraine's rare earth minerals. Zelensky immediately rejected the proposal, though.
Meanwhile, investing.com says that South Africa is getting frustrated with the U.S.'s approach to the peace talks. They're pointing to China's pledge of support as a contrast, so you can see how the geopolitical landscape is shifting and all these new alliances are starting to pop up.
It's not just global politics that are being affected. CNBC says that Trump's attacks on the wind energy industry are putting projects at risk, projects that could power millions of homes. So it makes you wonder about the future of renewable energy in the U.S. under this administration.
And CNBC also says that corporate charity efforts might be under scrutiny soon, especially those that are tied to diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. It's all part of a national DEI dismantle, they say. So we'll have to see what that means for corporate social responsibility and the organizations they support.
It's a lot to think about. Let's switch gears now and talk about personal finance. MarketWatch has been diving into some of the dilemmas people are facing every day. They had an article about a son who wants to pay off his parents' mortgage. But is that really a good idea? Could it actually backfire?
It's a good question. These are real-life scenarios that reflect broader anxieties about family relationships and money. MarketWatch also had a piece about a man who's worried that his new wife will claim his savings from before they were married. Can a retirement account protect those assets? I mean, these are questions a lot of people have.
Definitely. And then there's the issue of blended families. MarketWatch had another article about a woman who's worried about her stepdaughter inheriting equally with her biological son. It brings up all these complicated questions about estate planning.
It really does. And then you've got the moneyist's top 5 worst dating stories. It just goes to show you that relationship choices can have some serious financial consequences.
No kidding. Okay, so we've got all these personal finance dilemmas happening, and at the same time, there are all these bigger investment trends happening too. MarketWatch reports that Stanley Druckenmiller, a big investor, significantly increased his exposure to tech stocks in the last quarter of 2024. This includes Tesla, by the way.
Interesting, but on the other hand, CNBC reports that Wolf Research is actually recommending that people short Tesla. And GameStop, too, they say it's a way to reduce potential losses. Shorting a stock basically means betting that the price is going to go down.
So you're profiting from a downward trend, I see. Seems like there are a lot of different opinions about what's going to happen with these companies.
Yeah, especially with companies like Tesla and GameStop, their prices have been all over the place recently.
Makes sense. Meanwhile, the Motley Fool UK is looking at why Vodafone has become so popular with UK investors. They're wondering if it's actually a good long-term investment, though.
Good question. Now let's zoom out and look at the global economy. MarketWatch says that Goldman Sachs is predicting that AI could be a $200 billion game changer for China's markets.
Wow. That's huge.
It is. But Goldman Sachs is also warning investors to be careful. They say the market could become desensitized and investors need to really think things through before jumping in.
Yeah, it's changing so fast, but it sounds like China is trying to encourage innovation. CNBC says that President Xi Jinping is calling for entrepreneurs to show their talents.
So that could be a sign of support for private businesses, even though investors are being cautious.
It sounds like they're trying to find a balance between stimulating growth and navigating a really complex economic environment.
Definitely. And then there's India. CNBC is reporting that India's NTPC is planning to invest $62 billion in nuclear power over the next 2 decades.
That's a massive investment. It seems like there are some big shifts happening in the global energy landscape.
Absolutely. Countries all over the world are trying to figure out how to deal with growing energy demands, and they need to diversify.
Makes sense. Okay, let's move on to tech and innovation. Now AI is definitely front and center these days.
For sure, CNBC reports that Innovacker is launching these AI agents that are designed to help doctors and hospitals deal with burnout.
That's interesting. I mean, the strain on healthcare systems around the world is really intense.
It is, and using AI to help with that burden and support healthcare workers is definitely a good thing.
I agree. And here's something that I find really fascinating. AI might be the key to a 4-day work week. CNBC had an expert on who said that this could actually become a reality because of all the increased automation and efficiency.
Wow, that would be a huge change.
It would. It makes you think about the future of work, the balance between automation and human jobs, and whether people would have more free time.
Yeah, it's a development worth paying attention to. But while some industries are embracing AI, others might be facing some disruption. CNBC covered a Wall Street Journal report that said Broadcom and TSMC might split Intel, and that could totally change the chip industry.
Which is crucial to pretty much everything we do these days.
Exactly. Okay, let's shift gears again and talk about life. In 2025, CNBC gave us a glimpse into the cost of living in 12 major cities around the world, which is something that's on a lot of people's minds, especially with all the financial anxieties we were talking about earlier.
For sure. And here's an interesting generational trend. CNBC says that there's been a rise in telephobia among Gen Z. Young people are actually taking courses to help them overcome their fear of phone calls.
That's pretty wild. I mean, technology connects us in so many ways, but it also seems to be creating some new anxieties.
It really does. And while Gen Z is struggling with phone calls, Gen Alpha is already showing its spending power. CNBC talked about a UBS report that predicted which stocks will benefit from this generation's spending habits.
So there's a pretty big generational divide there.
Definitely. And last but not least, we have to talk about cryptocurrency. CNBC reports that a Dogecoin-affiliated employee is expected to try to access sensitive taxpayer information within the IRS system.
Wow, that's a big concern. It raises a lot of questions about data security and privacy as cryptocurrency becomes more integrated into our financial systems.
Absolutely. We've covered a lot today, from Trump's return and its global impact to the anxieties people are feeling about money and the constantly evolving tech landscape. What are your thoughts?
It's a lot to take in. It's incredible how much information we're bombarded with every single day. It's really important to be able to distill all of these stories into something meaningful and figure out what it all means.
I agree. And it's amazing how interconnected everything is.
Exactly. Like a political decision in the U.S. can have a huge impact on global markets and international relations.
And then you've got personal anxieties about relationships and finances that are tied to economic uncertainty and technological change.
It's all connected, and that's why it's so important to stay informed. It's not just about knowing the headlines, it's about understanding how they all fit together, how they impact your life, and how you can navigate this crazy world.
That's what the deep dive is all about. We want to give you the tools and insights you need to not just survive, but thrive in 2025 and beyond.
And remember, the deep dive doesn't end here. We want you to explore these topics, further question things, and come to your own conclusions.
We've given you a starting point. Now it's your turn to go deeper. Let us know what you think.
What are your takeaways? What questions do you have? Let's keep the conversation going. Before we wrap up, though, I want to highlight a story that really shows how interconnected everything is. Remember the CNBC article about the cost of living in different cities around the world?
Yeah, it's really interesting. They talked about all the economic factors and lifestyle choices that are influencing where people choose to live.
Right. But I think there's another layer to consider, too. The social and cultural impact of all this global migration. As people move to different cities, they bring their ideas, their cultures, and their perspectives with them.
That's a good point. It creates this incredible melting pot, which can lead to amazing innovation and creativity, but it can also lead to friction and conflict.
Exactly. How are these changing demographics going to reshape the social and political landscapes of these cities? Will it lead to more understanding and collaboration, or will it make existing divisions even worse?
Those are great questions. It really shows how complex globalization is. It's not just about economics. It's about culture identity and the fabric of our societies.
And it reminds us that even with AI, cryptocurrency, and all these technological advancements, it's the human element that really shapes the world. Our choices, our interactions, and our aspirations all play a crucial role.
Absolutely. So as you go about your day, think about these global migrations and cultural exchanges. How might they be playing out in your own city or even in your own life?
It's a thought-provoking way to connect global trends to our own personal experiences, and that's what makes these deep dives so meaningful. It's not just about absorbing information, it's about applying it to our lives, our decisions, and our understanding of the world.
Well said. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the news of February 17, 2025. We hope you've come away with some new perspectives, some aha moments, and maybe even a few questions of your own.
Remember, stay curious, keep exploring, and keep diving deep. And it's a really important reminder that the world is this tapestry of interconnected events. What might seem like a distant headline can actually have a direct impact on our lives.
Absolutely. Like take the news about Trump and Musk shrinking the federal workforce. On the surface, it's just a domestic policy issue. But when you really think about it, you see how it could affect international relations, economic stability, even individual job markets.
Exactly. And it's so interesting to see how the markets react. The fact that there hasn't been a huge response to Trump's social media posts suggests that people are becoming desensitized, or maybe they're just more skeptical about the real world impact.
Yeah, but we can't just ignore the potential for disruption either, like his attacks on the wind energy industry. That's a big deal. It raises concerns about the future of renewable energy in the U.S., and it could have some pretty far-reaching consequences for the economy and the environment.
And on a more personal level, the financial anxieties that those MarketWatch articles talked about really resonate with a lot of people. Whether it's dealing with complicated family dynamics, trying to protect your assets in a relationship, or just trying to make ends meet in this uncertain economy, these are real concerns that we need to pay attention to.
It's true, financial well-being isn't just about numbers. It's about relationships, choices, and having peace of mind. And those things can be affected by global events and personal decisions.
And speaking of personal decisions, those money estating stories were something else. They really highlight how relationship choices can have a huge financial impact, sometimes with really bad consequences.
It's a good reminder that financial compatibility is so important in any relationship.
Absolutely. Okay, so moving on to Investin. The contrasting views on Tesla are pretty fascinating. You've got Stanley Druckenmiller increasing his exposure while Wolf Research is recommending that people short the stock. It just goes to show you how risky and volatile the tech sector can be.
Yeah, it's both exciting and scary for investors. It definitely highlights how important diversification, due diligence, and understanding your risk tolerance are. The potential rewards can be huge, but you have to be careful and have a good strategy.
Now let's talk about AI and how it's affecting our lives. The launch of those AI agents to help healthcare workers deal with burnout is a really positive development.
Absolutely. The healthcare system is under so much strain right now, so anything that can help alleviate that burden and support those workers is a good thing.
And the possibility of a 4-day work week becoming a reality because of AI is pretty mind-blowing.
I know, right? It makes you think about the future of work, the balance between automation and human jobs, and whether people would have more free time.
Definitely something to keep an eye on, but while AI is being embraced by some industries, it could disrupt others. Like that report about Broadcom and TSMC potentially splitting Intel, that could have massive implications for the entire chip industry.
Which affects pretty much every aspect of our digital lives.
Exactly. Okay, let's shift gears again and talk about some of the social and cultural trends that are happening. The rise of telephobia among Gen Z is fascinating. It shows how technology is shaping the way we communicate and even the anxieties we have.
It's a good reminder that we need to develop strong communication skills both online and offline. And we need to find ways to navigate the changing social landscape in this tech-driven world.
And on the other hand, you've got Gen Alpha and their growing spending power. That's a huge economic force that businesses are really paying attention to.
It's a reminder that generational shifts bring both challenges and opportunities, and companies need to adapt if they want to stay ahead of the curve.
And finally, the news about the Dogecoin employee trying to access taxpayer information is pretty concerning. It raises a lot of questions about data security and privacy as cryptocurrency becomes more integrated into our financial systems.
As crypto becomes more mainstream, we need to make sure that security measures are strong and that sensitive data is protected. This incident shows that technological advancements also come with new vulnerabilities that we need to address.
Taking a step back from all these individual stories, it's important to see the bigger picture. The world is constantly changing, and it's all connected. Political decisions, economic trends, technological advancements, and social changes are all intertwined.
And as individuals, we need to be informed, adaptable, and engaged with the world around us. That's what the deep dive is all about, giving you the knowledge and insights you need to understand the news and how it affects your life.
We've covered a lot today, but the conversation doesn't end here. We want you to keep digging into these topics and form your own opinions. Remember, the most important thing is to stay curious and keep exploring.
Yeah, it really is like trying to put together this giant puzzle, but the pieces are always changing shape. But if we can understand how these seemingly random events are connected, we can actually start to see the big picture.
And that's really empowering. It helps us make better decisions in our own lives and as people who are trying to shape the future.
Right, we're not just watching things happen. We can actually influence what happens through our buying decisions, our votes, or even just having informed conversations about these issues.
Absolutely. Knowledge is power, and by really diving deep into these topics, we get a better understanding of the things that are shaping our world and our place in it.
So as you go about your day today, keep all of this in mind. Think about how the news you've heard connects to your life, your community, and the world.
And don't be afraid to question things, ask the tough questions, and come to your own conclusions. That's what makes this so interesting.
It really does. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the news of February 17, 2025. We hope you found some new perspectives, learned something new, and maybe even have some new questions.
Until next time, stay informed, stay engaged, and keep diving deep.